Hi guys, so I'm finally here with my July reading wrap up. I'm sorry that it's a bit late. I could have recorded it last weekend, but it just didn't happen. So I'm being productive and I'm making myself record it today. I had a really positive reading month in July. I pretty much enjoyed everything that I read. So let's just crack on with it. First up, I have two Lisa Kleypas books, and they're two books of hers that I've kind of put off reading because I'm running out of historical Lisa Kleypas books to read for the first time. So I've kind of been trying not to read as much Lisa Kleypas, but I caved. And I read Where Passion Leads and Forever My Love. Now these are part of the Berkeley Faulkner. They're a duology, but they can be read kind of alone. But these were the first books that Lisa Kleypas wrote, and they are very, very different from her more recent historical reads, and I have to say I prefer her more current things. These were written at, for example, the first book is kind of, it made me uncomfortable very early on because there is kind of a rape scene, and I know that was kind of a trope in a lot of historical romance for a period. I mean, this book was written in '87. And I know that was kind of a theme and something that happened in a lot of romance books, but I don't particularly like it in mine. And it happened so early on, and yeah, it just made me uncomfortable. So not my favourite of hers. And the heroes aren't particularly likeable. I know I said I enjoyed what I read. I enjoyed reading them. I still enjoyed a lot about them, but not my favourite of hers, I have to say. Heroes just weren't overly likeable, but still glad I read them. I gave them both sort of half marks, leaning more towards 3 out of 5. The next book that I read was Rogue Most Wanted. I think this is the 4th book in the Caversham Heiress series. I really enjoyed this. It was really sweet. William is kind of, I think his name was William, thinks he's cursed when it comes to love. He was rejected when he was younger and he went to propose to someone, and she picked someone that was titled so that she would get, a fortune and have a name. And so he's kind of been a bit cynical and ever since, but he's seen his family members fall in love, and then he meets Thea, and it kind of goes from there. And really enjoyed it. Really sweet, and it was just a good little book. I enjoyed it a lot. The next book that I read, oh my god, I feel like I have been waiting for this book for forever, absolutely forever, even though I haven't really. So that is War by Laura Thalessa. I'm not sure how you say her last name. This is the second book in the Four Horsemen series, and I only read the first book, Pestilence, in January this year. It was the very first book I read this year, and I know I'm late. I was quite late to the game with it, and I've been waiting for the next book ever since. And it's such an odd series, guys, because it's about kind of in modern times, and boom, the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse arrive. And it's how that affects mankind and the world. And obviously they're here for a purpose. Pestilence is to spread sickness and disease, and war is obviously war. And you're like, how can you like these characters when they pretty much spend the whole of the book killing? And I can't explain it. I cannot explain what hooks me in. I just can't explain it. But there is something about them that is phenomenal. And I read War in a day. I couldn't put it down. I loved it so much. I cannot wait for the next book. I really don't know when we're going to get the next book. I hope it's not forever. I hope that it's maximum a year, but even that's going to be really difficult because I loved this book so much. I think I might actually end up buying the physical copies of them for my shelves because I love them that much. So the next two books I read were, the next three books I read, can't count, were more Lisa Kleypas books. I was just in like a Regency romance mood really for the majority of the month. So the next book that I read was Love Come to Me, and this is kind of a standalone amongst her historical, because this is set in America, where most of her books are set in London or the countryside of the UK mainly. So this is a bit different that it's set in America, and it's set after the Civil War, I think. It doesn't say the year, but it's basically when Restoration is kind of going on, and difference between North and South, and Lucy, a Northerner, ends up marrying Heath, Southerner, and it was okay. I didn't dislike it. I'd probably give it around the 3.5 out of 5. Not the most romantic book, if I'm honest, but it was still a good book, and it was nice to read something that was set somewhere else from her. That was a bit different. And then the next two books that I read were two books in a duology, and they are the Valerian duology, I want to say is what it's called. So the first book is When Strangers Marry, and the second book is Only With Your Love. And I loved the first one. I'd probably give this one sort of 4.5 out of 5. Really enjoyed this one. And then the second book, Only With Your Love, I don't think I enjoyed quite as much. I'd probably give this one sort of the 3 out of 5. I much preferred this one. But this was interesting as well because it was historical romance from her, but different because it was set in New Orleans. So that was fun as well, to read something a bit different and about Creoles and all of that. So really enjoyed those for the most part. And then the next book that I read was one of my most anticipated releases this year, and that is Brazen and the Beast by Sarah MacLean. This is the second book in her Bare Knuckle Bastard series, and I unconsciously matched my nails to it this month. So basically, this is, like I said, this is the sequel to her Bare Knuckle Bastard series, and it's basically about, brothers and a sister that are bastards, and they've had to make their own way, and they sort of live in the underbelly of Covent Garden. And I really enjoyed the first book. I really enjoy Sarah MacLean's books, so I was super excited for this one. And obviously with Brazen and the Beast being a play on Beauty and the Beast, I was all for this, and it didn't disappoint. I loved it. So Henrietta, or Hattie as she goes by, has decided that this is her year. She's turning 30, she's not married, she's got no prospects, and she wants to take things for herself. She wants to run her father's shipping business because she's a woman. He doesn't think she can do it, and she's decided, you know what, it's going to be my year, I'm going to do it anyway. And on her way to a brothel, she runs into Wit, who goes by the nickname Beast, one of the bastards of Covent Garden, and their paths crossed. And it was such a good story. The two are really well matched. They were so fun to read. Just amazing. I loved Hattie. She was so strong. She gave as good as she got. She really challenged Wit, and everything that he thought he knew about women, she threw it all out the window. I just absolutely loved this. This was a 5 out of 5 for me. And then the last book that I read, I had a few days off in July. Not a huge amount of time, I just had a few days off work, and I was determined that I was going to use that time to start this book because I keep putting it off. And I was like, do you know what, I just need a few days where I can just start it and go through. And that is Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. Now, I've talked about Laini Taylor a lot on my channel. I really enjoyed her Daughter of Smoke and Bone series. Really loved it, and I had this pre-ordered. It's been out a little while now, and I haven't picked it up. And then the second book came out, and I still hadn't picked this up. And I don't know if I've just wanted to save it, or if I've been anxious, because Daughter of Smoke and Bone was so good that I've been like, how's it going to compare? But holy shit, I loved this book, guys, so much. Part of me regrets leaving it so long, but the other part of me is like, I've loved it so much. Like, I just loved it. It was so fantastical. The whole world building, the whole way that Laini Taylor writes is just beautiful. Like, you just fall in love with her writing. And I mean, the protagonist's name, or one of the protagonists' name, is Laszlo Strange. It's such a brilliant character name, and he loves books. He was an orphan raised by monks, and he's somehow ended up working at this great library. But he has dreams of bigger things, and he wants to go to the Lost City, known as Weep. Not much is known about it, but he, you know, makes his own books, does his own research, and then one day Weep pretty much comes to him, and the story goes from there. It's about gods, and oh, the feels, guys. I don't want to give too much away about this, but most of you have probably read it now by anyway. But if you haven't, you must read this book. It's truly phenomenal. 5 out of 5 stars, hands down. And as soon as I finished it, the way it kind of ended, I went on to book 2, but that is in next month's wrap up. So that's all the books that I read this month, guys. Like I said, like, I really, even though I liked some books more than others, I had a good reading month. My absolute favourite books of this month, hands down, was Strange the Dreamer, War, and Brazen and the Beast. So yeah, that's everything, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all soon. Happy reading.